Hi there. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Good evening, perhaps. Today, we're going live with another office hours. I want to make this as interactive as possible. So, we're answering any questions you have about nutrition coaching, nutrition in general, coaching, health, wellness, business. Lay them on me. How this is going to work is I'm also, as I described, on my email list. If you guys aren't on that, I'll give you some ways to get on that too. I'm going to give away a few copies of the book and go from there. But this does take some participation, which means some live questions and diving into things. So once we get more people on the live and interacting, we'll do a raffle of the book as well. If you're watching the replay and you haven't yet caught, if you haven't yet got your copy of the book too, drop a question in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer that. If you're popping in and tuning in for the first time, let me know who you are, where you're calling in from, where you're listening from, and if you have a question at all about starting nutrition coaching, or maybe you're an existing coach and you have a difficult client, anything like that, drop it in the chat and ask me that question. I'll repeat it. I'll answer it. I'll give you some insight, as well as you'll be in our raffle for a free copy of this from Passion to Profit, our book that we released this July. We've sold over 200 copies, which is really, really cool. Had a bunch of people reach out about it, give reviews, even join our nutrition coaching program after, because they found it so helpful. So I want to give you guys, I want to make sure this gets in your hands. If you're interested in nutrition coaching and you haven't checked out this book, you're passionate about health, wellness, all those things, you got to get this book. Let me give you a chance to get it over to you as well with this raffle today. Love free giveaways, and I want to get you a copy. So let me know in the chat what questions you have. Got to come up with a question. Can be easy, hard, simple in terms of how to get started and where you're at. We've taken, 420 plus coaches through this process now, and I like to think we got it down in a structured step-by-step way. So I'd love to, give you some insight around where you're at and how to get started. It can be anything at all. So let me know what questions you guys got. Drop them in the chat. As I'm going here too, the one thing that's coming up on the radar as well here is, if you want more information on how to get started, we also have an upcoming webinar coming up too. If you haven't registered for that as well, we have, I think, 30 spaces, and they're about half gone now. Completely free webinar this upcoming Tuesday. I'm going to present how to get started nutrition coaching, the forms you need, the templates. Do you need a website? What to do on social media to get clients? All those things, you're going to find it in this webinar. Super interactive with some bonuses involved as well. I want to give, and maybe you guys are noticing as you're picking this down or picking it up, listening, I want to give you every opportunity to get started with this stuff. So take me up on these things. Here's the webinar link. Get registered right away if you haven't yet. But what questions you guys got? I'm going to tune in on YouTube as well to make sure I'm not missing anything. But let me know. Fill me in the chat. One of the biggest things now, coming out is different coaching software, and there's so many tools that are excellent out there. I work with some companies in partnerships and coaching and that kind of stuff. There's some amazing things out there. Maybe you need one of those. Maybe you're at the point you need one of those. Maybe you don't, in terms of just getting things going. Mike Dowla of Stronger You was talking this week about huge nutrition coaching company. He actually had a successful exit of it and sold it. He's been retired for the last couple of years. But he was talking about their first beginnings of like starting an app and stuff, and how much money they synced into it. In reality, if you have less than 10 clients, you don't need anything like that, especially to get started. There's a point where you can deliver more professional service and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, you don't necessarily need those things. We got some listeners on though. Do you guys want a book? You're going to get one basically, but you do need to participate, which means dropping in the chat what you're up to. Maybe you can't even hear me. Can I get some confirmation that you can hear me? It looks like my mic is going off here, but let me know. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I'm hanging around here and I need some questions. If not, I'm just going to ramble on about maybe what I got going on. What's next for the Dr. Mark Method program? What's next for the business? We're closing in on 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. Not sure you guys noticed, we put considerable effort into the channel over the last few years. We've created nearly like 350 long form videos. We're also always looking for ideas. So if you got a question that would fall in line with a good idea, I'd be happy to answer some questions around that as well. What questions you guys got? You just want to listen to me chat? That's cool. I've also been a few physicians have reached out to me in the last couple of weeks, interested in my experience with the carnivore diet. There's some primary care physicians that currently do it and see clients that they're pushing them towards that type of thing, and it's really really interesting to me. What's interesting around some of like the restrictive diets is, again, I don't think it's necessary for most people. I really really don't. As well as there's huge advantages to eating specific things and nutrients that come from specific foods like fruits and vegetables. But as a student of this stuff, I'm always interested about like, there's pros and cons of everything. One of the pros and cons of restrictive diets is that it makes it like obviously clear around what someone should be doing and shouldn't be doing, right? It makes it super clear around that stuff. Um, it's like black and white. That's an advantage. It makes it tough to sustain through time. That's a con. But at the same time, as a science-based coach that uses objective metrics and gets people tracking and eating towards specific targets and stuff, obviously that's a bit more complicated to explain, teach, pull off, and put the structure in place to be able to navigate that. So anytime you have more simplicity, it makes it easier to explain, right? This is exactly what you need to be doing. This is exactly what you don't need to do. Then there's also like, for the carnivore diet, there's no depth around how much of the stuff that you can be eating. There's no like, red light around that, safeguards around that. So it's like, it actually makes it even simpler to follow. And people eat, tons of protein and they seem to do well for an extent. There are some impacts to the cholesterol in some cases, but all this stuff is highly variable. And I'm very much a proponent of like, if it works and works. And if some people, have tried other things and truly tried other things, then that aspect we need to consider. We really need to think about. Another thing that I think is like definitely interesting, and if you're just tuning in now to the live, I'm giving away some books as well. But what's required here is you drop in a question in the chat so we can talk about it, and it can be any question at all. Tell me how often I get my hair cut. Ask me. Tell me. Ask me. But nutrition coaching, wellness, all that stuff. Viola says, "Hey Mark, if someone is 15 to 20 kilos overweight and doesn't know much about nutrition and counting calories, is 2 hour only, what method would you start with?" My personal bias is we throw them in the fire. I think tracking in itself is a skill like anything else that someone will get better with time. It's like budgeting, personal finance budget. Like you don't need to have an economics degree in order to get better at this stuff and kind of go from there. So it's one of those things where I personally would encourage people to get started. I would start them tracking with some realistic targets. First, we do an assessment around where they're at to get a sense of like what they're currently doing and what's holding them back from reaching their goals. In most cases, people are going to be lower on, especially with the weight loss example, lower on protein, quite variable with their calorie intake. There's going to be some big swings and ups and downs, and that can cause havoc around their appetite, energy, those type of things. Make it more likely that they'll eat foods that they don't necessarily shouldn't be eating. Just some big swings in consistency, but then setting some targets around that, and then teaching them how to eat within that structure. That is the best place to start, even if people aren't too knowledgeable about it. In my experience, a lot of people think, hey, you got to have an advanced degree to be able to do this stuff. I think it's the complete opposite. I think That's the exact reason why you should get closer to the objective side of things, because most people can run their own personal finance budget, especially if it's clear and simple. And we're going to do the same thing with the objective side of nutrition. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing that's important, but it does provide the structure around what they need to be doing. So I'd get them to do that. And I think the biggest thing is not setting targets around where they should be, but splitting the difference between where they are and what's going to help them reach their goals as they move towards optimal. And that's what we adjust and fine tune through time. So keep that in mind. Bayola, though, I'm tossing your name down and I'm putting it in my wheel of names here. And you tuned into our last live too, and I don't think you got a book, so this is exciting. And as of right now, you're the only one that's asked a question. So I got a name on the wheel to spin here. Again, guys, giving away, well, my intention was 3 copies of this book, but you got to drop a question in the chat. It can be related to nutrition coaching, but also just general. But you got to help me boost the engagement here. And if you're liking the answers, you're liking the chat, make sure to hit that like button too, because it does help the channel grow. But who else has some questions? Nothing for right now. That's totally cool. Maybe you're just hanging out on a Friday and you don't want to have to engage. I totally get it. Relax. At this point, what I'm going to do, so Bayola says, I did, and I have my first client since then. Stranger though, no family or somebody. So I will have more questions soon, I guess. Yeah, totally. Like, fill me in. I'm happy to answer more. What I'm going to have you do, Bayola, is email me at this address and fill me in on your mailing address so I can send you over a book, and I'll get that over to you right away in the next few days. Send me it over. You're going to get one. Outside of that, I'm going to wait around another few seconds if anyone else has another question. This book, an amazing place to start. You're going to get so much information around it, around how to get started. But we'll leave it there for today. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, drop it in the comments, and then we'll go from there. And I'll surprise you with the book. As well as, if you haven't yet signed up for our upcoming webinar this Tuesday, make sure to do that. I just pinned the actual webinar sign up. We have, hey, Justin, fill me in on what kind of questions you have around this process. I'd love to answer them. Nutrition coaching, business, wellness, how to sell things on the internet. I focused most of my energy and attention on that in the last 12 years. That's all I've done. It's been exciting. So let me know, fill me in. Bayola, I'll send that over to you. Send me an email, I'll get that over to you. And if you haven't yet signed up for our completely free webinar coming up on this Tuesday, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to get started nutrition coaching in 2025. It's going to be very informative, educational, with some freebies as well. Make sure to sign up off that link. It'll be drmarkmethod.com/DRMM webinars. I'm opening it up right now to make sure it works. It sure does. There's myself, Coach Josie, Coach Meredith. This time last year, we were in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, doing like a company retreat, creating some content. It was great. Perfect. I'm glad you're signed up. Very, very exciting. Send me that email, Bayola, and we'll go from there. Outside of that, I'm going to leave her there for today. You guys know where to reach me if you have anything. Sign up for that webinar, and we'll go from there. Chat soon. Bye.